What's going on, everybody? So in this video, we are going to be covering what's going on in the NFT market, some of the biggest updates by some of the bluest of chip projects, and some upcoming mints you definitely have to watch out for. So right now, when we are looking at what's going on in the markets, it seems kind of boring. You know, things are pretty much trading sideways. Kind of see ETH correcting a little bit, where not too long ago it was like a 1.7, and then now it's going down to 1.5 and getting kind of lower. Where will it go? Nobody knows, but for the most part, it's kind of just trading sideways with deviation of like a few $100 in USD value. And then when we're looking at the non-sand index, the top 500 NFT projects, there definitely has been a slump when it comes to the NFT market for sure. As you can see, it's been going kind of down. Also for the top 10 blue chips, kind of been going down. So if you notice like some of your favorite NFT projects, or maybe even the bags that you hold, they've been going down when it comes to the price of the floor. It's expected because people are not as bullish on NFTs, especially when ETH is pumping from like 1,000 to 1.5K. That's just how it goes. And a lot of times people want to sell their NFT so that they can convert it to ETH and then maybe convert to USDC. You have to understand that everything is in a cycle. The cycle is not always predictable, but when you look in hindsight, you kind of see like what's going on there. Okay, so the first project we're going to be covering is going to be Proof Grails. So as you know, Proof is one of the projects with the highest floor price of like 1,000 supply. One of the missions of Proof is really just to like get more art out there, and in the way they're kind of like incubating or even like promoting these maybe not so known artists. They're going to get 25 artists and they're going to have 25 pieces, and they are going to sell it in like almost like a gallery collection, right? So when I look at Proof, it's almost like the modern day Web3 art gallery in a sense, and they're not even going to tell you the artist until after you buy, right? They want to say like, hey, you know, you should buy the art for the art, not necessarily because it's a popular name behind it. Now you have to understand that when you study art history, especially like how modern art galleries work, a lot of times when these new art galleries come in, it's not necessarily about the artist. What it's actually about is who the gallery is. So a gallery that's popular and has clout within a certain field, whoever they put out, people will buy the artist's work just because that gallery put their stamp behind it. And that's how the traditional Web 2 art galleries work, especially in contemporary art. And so I can see them mimicking a similar model, but making it more Web 3. Fundamentally, it's the same concept that people have been doing for a very long time. In fact, decades actually. Grails Season 2, if you want to take a look at it, you can take a look to see if this is something that interests you. Grails Season 1, if you want to look at some of the past work that they did, kind of like anything these guys will put out, they already have an audience of thousands that will potentially buy it. And then if those guys and girls will potentially buy it, then, you know, other people will buy into it because they're going to say, oh, a bunch of Proof people diamond hand this, or a bunch of like Moonbirds are going to diamond hand this. So it's like, it's really just that perception of creating value in art. And that's really created by the marketing and positioning of the gallery, which is Proof. Now moving on to another project, we're going to be talking about Imaginary Ones. So if you go on the Imaginary Ones Twitter, they are announcing a staking program for their holders. A couple months ago, Imaginary Ones was like the hottest mint under the sun for a period of time. And then obviously during a bear market, things aren't as hot as before. The floor price kind of holding steady at 0.45. I mean, it was much higher before, but you know, it's not too bad. Not too bad, especially for, you know, 8.9K collection. You know, everyone has their mixed feelings about this, but I had the chance to meet some of the founders, and, you know, from what I can tell, they seem pretty legitimate and actually trying, but you know, everyone has their own opinions. When I hear staking, especially like tokens and stuff like that, I feel like it's not really the right time during a bear market to do staking. And that's just my personal opinion, although I don't advise them or anything. I'm just giving my opinion. Most tokens kind of get closer and closer to zero during the bear market. And then it's kind of like, well, you know, what's the point of even having a token, especially if the supply constantly keeps increasing as you stake it? But I can see most likely that they want people to not sell during the bear market. So maybe that's why they introduced the staking mechanic. But, you know, in the end, they have to find ways to make the token valuable. And I guess if they're creating this entire ecosystem, it's possible. But, you know, for me personally, you know, stepping outside of Imaginary Ones and looking at tokens in general, I feel like this time of the game, doing a token maybe doesn't make the most sense for most projects, just because it's kind of like, what value does it bring immediately? It's probably smarter to create the demand for a token before you create the token, instead of creating the token and having it stake so that one day you can use it, because those tokens might be worth nothing and you've been staking it for so long. I feel like for most projects in general, if you can solve the challenge without making it complicated, that's really the way to go, because in the end, you kind of see if there's demand for something or not. But if you build all these technical things, it's kind of like, well, we're building all these things to show that we're building, but do people actually want the thing we're building? And I actually feel like it's more important to understand what people want before building, because it'll save you a lot of time, right? In other news, OpenSea recently implemented a new feature that's being exploited. So what does that mean exactly? Well, people can buy NFTs on behalf of other people. And so like people are pretending to be Gary Vee, pretending to be Prinksy. And so when, you know, wallet trackers are tracking these wallets, it'll look like Gary Vee bought this, Prinksy bought this. And a lot of times, you know, people like copy trade certain influencers, because a lot of times when they buy something, those projects have the potential to pump, and now people have an opportunity to game that system. So this actually makes it a lot more complicated for the average retail person, because they are probably going to be duped if they don't know the news of what's going on with this OpenSea thing. Now, in other news, we're going to be talking about CloneX. This person, Beb.eth, recently just introduced this website called clone.tools. When CloneX came out with their 3D files, everybody can use it in like Blender and like all these different like 3D software. The challenge most people had is that they were like, cool, we have these files, but I don't know how to use Blender. I don't know how to use 3D art. So they would have to sit down for hours and hours and hours just to figure out how to do something very simple. In one perspective, it got a lot of people to want to learn how to be more creative and do 3D stuff, which is great, but the barrier to entry is very hard. Like even for me, before like CloneX, I tried to learn Blender, and I watched this tutorial about like how to make a pink donut. And I'm sure everyone has seen this video, but then when I watched the tutorials, I was like, this is definitely too much work for me, so I never got down to it. Clone Tools is basically, it's a tool specifically for clones, right? So it's basically helping your clones use them in 3D files. It's going to be easy for you to basically rig your clone, right? So just things that will, make it cooler and make it easier for you, like plug and play templates. This is pretty much what you're getting, and this is going to be a free tool that you can just download. So this is actually powerful, because let's say they charge like $10 for this, then all the CloneX people will be like, oh, I'd rather pay $10 and spend like 5 hours trying to like do this myself, right? And especially for like video editing, for example, there are like certain packs you can buy, certain templates you can buy, and this just saves you so much more time. And I can see that a lot of people who don't want to do something from scratch, there's definitely a lot of value for this, especially if the demand for wanting to use a CloneX increases. And again, like even if it's called Clone Tools, maybe they're using it for CloneX, but who knows, maybe one day they're going to create a pack for like Cyberpunk VX, or whatever the next popular 3D model is. As long as they have a base and trust, and they have good work, then people will come and buy, right? So these kind of templates and things like that help people save money and time will be very beneficial for the space. So I'm glad to see like other people actually putting together services that people kind of need right now, because there is demand, but obviously because of bear market and not everybody wants to learn Blender who has a CloneX, there probably is a niche audience for that, but it could be something definitely in the future as metaverse narratives become more popular, as 3D becomes more popular, and it is becoming popular. I know personally in Vietnam, like a lot of people who have done 2D art and like graphic design, they're starting to learn 3D because they see some kind of future in it. So, and shout out to the team. We got Beb, 0x, BG, Goat, Regis, Blender, DAC, Vega. Shout out to you guys. You guys are doing a good job. Keep it going. I'll be following along. And just to be clear, this is not an official CloneX plugin and templates. These are just the community coming together to create something of their own. And it's quite inspiring to see people building on top of the CloneX ecosystem, which I believe that's what this whole platform for NFTs was meant to be for. All right, next thing we're going to talk about is going to be some news about Web3SG. They have an art gallery in Singapore, and they also do other things within the NFT space. And one of the large pieces of news is that they are going to be handling the Web3 side for this conference called COMEX in 2022. So COMEX, if you're American, it's kind of like a CES, but for Singapore. So all the tech vendors and like people who make computers and video games and stuff like that, they all come together to kind of showcase what they're doing. People coming in to get the latest news on the latest updates, latest gadgets, latest tech, so that they can get their story out there. And so Web3SG is basically handling all the vendors, right? So if you want to pay money to be there, get a special deal, Web3SG is probably your place, because Web3SG is like very close with the Kaiju Kings project. They're getting a free booth over here, and so Kaiju Kings is going to have a little booth where people can come and say hi. Web3SG is also coming out with a Citadel Pass, 333 supply, free mint, launch 1 week after COMEX. So a company like Web3SG, if they are the ones handling the booths, right? So if a booth is 20K, obviously, they're not doing it for free. So they probably, have a stream of revenue right off the bat for putting events together, very Web2, but just implementing that Web3 strategy to it, which is why I feel like a free mint for 333 supply kind of does make sense in this situation. And I think in the future, moving away from Web3SG, we're going to see more Web2 business models just implementing, Web3 membership, right? So like if you have a way to make money, whether it's like events, media, advertising, whatever the case is, you can make money right away, actually, right? Or even if it's agency work. And then from there, what I think people will do, they will create a digital memberships, right? Where they can use it, get connected with the community, have more value, like take it to the next step. And then whatever that means, free mint is quite interesting because, even if they charge money, like let's say they charge like 0.3 ETH, I think the money they make from, doing this event and like booking all the venues and generating sales will probably far outweigh whatever they would mint anyways. So I think doing a free mint does make sense for certain businesses that have a business model right off the bat. And so with that said, that is everything we got to cover for this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a like, subscribe, turn on notifications, let me know in the comments what kind of companies you think are going to enter the Web3 space from Web2. My name is Patrick Dang, and I will see you guys in the next one.